Hello. So, my name is Sabina, and today I'm starting the YouTube channel. So, today is my first video, my first YouTube video, and I'm very excited to start in this journey. So, let me tell you a little bit about myself, since it's going to be an introduction video into my life. So, I was born. I was born in Moldova, and Moldova is located in East Europe. And Moldova was one of the republics, okay, one of the countries that were dominated by the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union, when I say Soviet, I mean actually Russia. So Russia dominated and controlled all the republics around it. Okay, so this is why I know Russian. Okay, this was one of the dominant languages in my country. And then when I was 5 years old, we immigrated to Israel. So I was really small at the time, 5 years old, and my brother was 14 years old at the time. So of course you can imagine how it's not easy to immigrate to a new country with a new language, a new culture, and to get adjusted to all of that. But I think I quickly learned the language. I think after 1 year I already learned most of the Hebrew language. And for my parents I think it was for my parents more difficult than for me, but they succeeded. My mother, for example, even though she doesn't hear well, she has a hearing problem, she learned very quickly the Hebrew language through TV, through books. Okay, she read texts there. Okay. I mean, on TV there are subtitles, so you can just read the subtitles, and it's in Hebrew. So it's one way to practice Hebrew, and another way to practice Hebrew is actually to read from books. Because, for example, like interacting with people and talking with people, it was more difficult for her because, like I said, she has a hearing problem. Okay, and so my father also learned the Hebrew language, but I think my mother learned even better the Hebrew language than him. And like I said, I learned it very, very, very quickly, because usually children are learning more quickly than adults. The children's brain is like a sponge. Okay, so everything that they hear, everything that they speak, that they hear, is penetrating like to their mind more easily than adults. And so I lived in Israel from the age of 5 to the age of 29. Okay, and this is a lot of years. I mean, almost all my life I lived in Israel, and I got used to the language, to the culture, to everything. I consider myself as a native Israeli, and of course my level of the language was native. Okay, because even though I was not born there, but I came there at the age of 5, and this is very small age, and at small ages, like I said, the brain, everything that the child hears, it penetrates to the brain more easily. So yes. And of course my brother also learned the language pretty quickly. Yes. So I consider myself as a native Israeli, and my Hebrew language as a native language, as my native language. Okay, and then when okay, so let me tell you before I go on that I think when I was 17, I met my husband, and I would dedicate a separate video for our story of how we met. So I met my husband when I was 17, and we got married when I was 19. I know it's a young age. I will, as I said, I would dedicate a separate video for that. So we got married, and then we had 2 kids. When we had 2 kids, we immigrated. I think when my daughter, I have a daughter, a son, and now and another son. But when we were living in Israel, when we're still living in Israel, so I had only 2 kids. Okay, 2. As a daughter, and she was 9 years old when we immigrated, and my son was 3 years old when we immigrated. So we all of us immigrated to the United States, and of course there are a couple of reasons that we immigrated to the United States, a couple of reasons that we immigrated at all. And but I think I would dedicate another video, a separate video for that too. Okay, so I'm very excited just to do my first video. And then that's all. So we immigrated to the United States, and as you can imagine, I already experienced the process of immigration from one country to another. From Moldova, where I was born, to Israel, it was not easy, but I was small, and small kids, they adjust very quickly. But when I immigrated here, I was already 29 years old, and it was not easy, because although I know the language, I know the English language, because when we lived in Israel, I was an English teacher, and I have a bachelor degree in English literature and linguistics, and I have a teacher certificate with specialization in English. But when we immigrated here, I thought, okay, it's going to be very easy because I know the English language. But when we came here, and then I starting to getting to know everything here, and so I thought, okay, it's not so easy because the language, because first of all there is the accent, the accent characteristic, okay, the accent thing, and I didn't have an English accent, I mean American accent. I don't think that I have it now. Also, maybe I learned a little bit to how to speak with an American accent, but it was not easy because when I was talking with people and they were speaking to me, sometimes I didn't understand the words, what they're trying to say, because I was not used to the American accent. I know the English language, but I was not used to the accent, and they were speaking also very quickly, so it was not so easy. But as time went by, I got used to that, and yes. So my husband also learned more English, although he knew the English language when we were living in Israel. But we needed to get used. We needed to get used more to the accent. Then we needed to get used more to the culture, because in Israel, for example, people are more direct. They say, most of the cases, they say what they think. And here, people are more indirect. They try to be more polite. Even if there is something that they don't like, they try to not to show it, or to show it less, or to sometimes they are being apologetic about that. Yes, so this was another difference that I found between Israel and United States. And as I said, the accent is of course different. And okay, and there was something that was really difficult for me, because my parents were living very close to me when I lived in Israel. They were living like 2 minutes walk from me, two or 3 minutes walk. That's all. And my mother was helping me after my kids were born. So my mother was helping me with my kids. And here, when suddenly I came here, and suddenly I see nobody. There is no help, nothing. And of course, I knew what I'm getting into. I knew that when I will come here, nobody will be here. I mean, except of my husband, but nobody will be here from my parents to help me. So it was not easy. It was not easy at all. But somehow I managed to get through that. As I said, my daughter was 9 years old at the time, and my son was 3 years old at the time. So, yeah, so it was not easy, but they were not so small. So it's not, but they were not so small. But what was more difficult is the fact that they didn't know the English language. My daughter knew a little bit because in Israel, the students start studying Hebrew when they are, I think, when they are in second grade. I think even from first grade they already start. But I know how it was when we immigrated at 2014. I know how it was at the time that we immigrated, but I don't know how it's now. I think they already start from first grade to teach English. So my daughter knew a little bit because she was at the time she was about to start fourth grade, and she learned English from, I think, second grade, or yeah, second grade. But in second grade they did they taught English like a game, okay, in a game form, games, and it was not so serious like in the third grade, for example. In the third grade, they started more seriously to learn, to give tests to the students and to test them, to work more on spelling, writing, on everything, and speaking, of course. Yeah, so my daughter didn't know so much English at the time because she learned English in a serious way only in the third grade. So it was not easy. But so when we came here, it was like a shock. It was a shock to me because, like I said, I had this difficulty with the language. The culture was different. But my daughter and my son, this was the most difficult for them, and especially for my daughter at the beginning, because she didn't know the language so well. She didn't know how to write most of the words. It was a struggle for her at the beginning, and from an excellent student who she was in Israel, she became a student that gets only one, like one. It means that you are at the lowest level. So she got a lot of ones, and I was feeling like our life is like not good at that point, not good at all, because everything that we knew in Israel changed. My daughter, who was an excellent student, became a student that has the lowest, that has low grades, has the lowest grades in comparison to how she was before. And my son didn't know English at all, so it was very difficult for him. So the teacher, he was at the pre-K, so the teacher needed to use with him with gestures, okay? She used her hands, she used her face expression, everything, just for him to understand what she is saying. So like I said, she used hand movements, face expression, so these things. It was not easy at all. But as time got by, they really improved, okay? My daughter started writing already, like stories, like short stories that were 2, 3, 4 pages long, just after 4 4 or 4.5 months. So it was amazing, the improvement that she did over these months. And my son, slowly by slowly, he started really learning the words and really learning about the culture. And of course he adapted to himself the American accent. My daughter also adopted the American accent. She started talking with American accent. But there was one thing that remained a difficulty to this day, and it didn't. Maybe it improved a little bit, but not so much. The how I feel, how I miss my parents who I was very close with, who they helped me with my kids, who they supported me emotionally, physically with the kids, financially sometimes. So my parents were missing. I mean, they were absent. They were in Israel. The situation was like that. They were in Israel. I was here, and it was so difficult. The first months, every day that I woke up, I was crying. I was just crying. I didn't want to be in the situation, and I always constantly was telling my husband, let's go back to Israel. And not because I didn't enjoy United States. I really enjoyed a lot of things here in US, but from the emotional aspect, okay, in my heart, I was really missing my parents. Really. It's like there is some huge part that was like taken away from me. Okay, but not completely, because we talk on Skype, and we talk through other videos, for example WhatsApp, but it's not the same like if they were next to me and I was speaking and I was talking with them. So still until this time I really miss them. I talk with my mother, okay, it's not that I don't see her at all. I see her, but through the Skype program. But a lot of things have improved, a lot of things that I like in the United States, and I would not want to return to Israel. And actually there are reasons that I don't want to return. I love my country very much, Israel, a lot, and I really also miss it, but I prefer to stay here, and there are some reasons for that, and I will discuss them. I will discuss them in my next video. Okay, migrated from Israel to United States, and for these reasons I don't want to return them. And just something last. We go to Israel almost every year, and we visit my husband's parents, my parents, and we visit them and all the cousins. But what I would want to do is bring my parents here legally to United States. But it takes time. And I think in the next videos I will also explain why it takes time. I will explain briefly like the process, okay? The process that you can use to bring your parents legally here. Okay? So thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching my video today. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to get notification about my next videos, so click the subscribe button down below, and please write and share in the comments what was the most significant experience in your life, or one of the significant experience in your life that affected on the person that you are today. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.